Here's exactly how not to get rich in the AI gold rush this year and why most people are quitting AI automations in 2026. Now, what I have opened up in front of you on my screen is showing you the macro of what's happening in the space. Now, a lot of people are quitting AI automations and instead focusing on this same macro shift I'm about to share with you in today's video. Now, generalists and hyper specialists are both dying. I mean, the money lies in the middle, and I want to show you why today. So, when you're doing AI automations or AI services or any sort of services, in fact, to other businesses, so in other words, you're in the B2B space, you'll typically fix one of two problems, either a demand or a supply issue. So, demand would be helping them, perhaps make AI ads or get leads and work the leads perhaps with an AI appointment setter or an AI voice agent or any sort of things that leads to them having more leads, more calls, or more money at the end of the day. Now, supply usually is about hiring, about automating perhaps the onboarding experience, the upselling experience of existing clients. It could also be to systemize and simplify the delivery process, and all of which we all know there's a gazillion ways to do with end-to-end workflows. But I want to give you again this macro trend that's happening right now. And I think the way you have to understand how a market usually works is something like this, where you have a category, a market, an industry, a mechanism, and then an offer as a business. So before I show you what's in this black box right here that kind of covers the general topic of the video, I want to show you what I meant earlier when I said that both generalists and hyper specialists are getting replaced. And that counts anybody who's doing what we would call as AI automations. So by generalist, I mean this, right? Like anytime OpenAI releases a feature like this, which this was in August 28th of 2025, they're saying, hey, we're introducing GPT real-time and real-time API updates for production voice agents. In other words, you don't need a middleman, perhaps like Assistable, right? Which Assistable right here was pretty much like the middleman in order to make voice agents, or at least the ones that we used a lot in our business right now to integrate with a lot of local businesses. Whereas like now, you don't need to do this as much when you see an update like this one right here. Like this, like a business like Assistable is on the verge of getting pretty much commoditized because of OpenAI increasing those like general updates that they have as a part of their own API. So anybody who's trying to create a general AI software, say about like a voice agent right here or a texting bot or anything of that sort, is getting essentially just bundled inside of giants like OpenAI or like Anthropic or so on and so forth. But then you have the hyper specialists, which today's topic is really about those hyper specialists. And I'm talking about like people doing the automations and workflows. And I'll first give you a comparison with the Facebook ads industry, because I've come from the Facebook ad space. And I think a lot of us who are now dabbling with the AI space are familiar with, traditional SMMA model. And whatever happened to that space is pretty much the same thing that is currently happening to anybody in the AI automation space. And I kind of want to share that with you here. So let's start with the video right here, okay? First of all, what I mean right there, and this is like understanding how just an overall business works at a macro level. When you have a new category, so a new category of services or products, it opens up a whole subset of new avenues for business. So as an example, when social media advertising became a thing in 2017, 2018, as an example, when Facebook ads became like an actual platform that you could pay to run ads on. That was a first in its category. Like you, before that point, could not run paid social advertising. It was paid search advertising with Google ads, but not really paid social. And so therefore now you end up picking a market, any market for that matter, like the US as an example. And then you end up picking any industry like blue collar businesses as an example. And then you end up picking any sort of mechanism. So as an example, like Facebook ads or TikTok ads. And then you end up putting in an offer right here. So like your offer, when you have a new category, which basically opens up a whole new market with a whole new industry, because if it's a new category, it means that nobody in the US and nobody, let alone for blue collar businesses, has ran Facebook ads. And therefore your offer has to be incredibly simple. Like you can just come out and say, I get more leads through Facebook ads for blue collar businesses in the US. But what happens with time is that as more competitors enter the market, well, what you were faced with is this. You had to improve your offer. And now I introduce you to the concept of market sophistication right there, where basically the more sophisticated your market becomes, the more you have to change and adapt your offer. So when the market, when you're first to a new market, so in other words, when a new category opens up, you just have to state what it is that you do. But then when the market gets slightly more competitive, then you have to enlarge this claim. And I'm already seeing that inside of the AI automation space, where people now have to like guarantee certain outcomes or like booked appointments or this and that, what the workflows they're implementing. So as an example, what happened in the Facebook ad space was, now you had to do a guarantee and top your competitors, essentially enlarging your claim that you had to do when there's more competitors. But what happens when there's even more competitors? Well, now you have to come out with a new mechanism. So you either change the mechanism altogether, so you pivot from offering Facebook ads to TikTok ads, as an example, and you start back. So whenever you change something here, one of those building blocks upstream, then you kind of reset what's below. So if you introduce a new mechanism, then you can go back and simply claim this mechanism as essentially just like stage one if you want sophistication. But let's go back right here, right? Assuming you want to stick with Facebook ads right here, you can introduce a new way, a new mechanism by which you do Facebook ads as an example. And again, I'm going to go back to AI examples in a second. This is just me explaining the macro right here. Now, when there's even more people, so now you're in a stage 4 market, you have to embellish and make your mechanism solve more of the same problem. So now you have to add a guarantee on your new mechanism. And to be honest, when you get past that point, it's borderline impossible to make money. I mean, you have to really focus on personal branding and organic. And then that's why a lot of gurus in this space have kind of been forced to build a personal brand against their will, if you want, because there was no other way for them to get trust out of the markets than to move on to a stage 5 market sophistication. In other words, trying to revive a dead product. But now what's happening is, if I bring this whole category right here, is whenever you have a new category opening up, you have a new gold rush starting up. Okay, so what I mean by here is anytime you change, as mentioned earlier, one of those blocks, so say you change the industry, everything changes below it. So as an example, in the Facebook ads era, right? When everybody was offering, say, Facebook ad services for blue collar businesses, you might have realized that, as an example, you could change your niche. You could go and offer Facebook ad services for chiropractors, and then boom, now you just change the industry to chiropractors, as an example, and then right below it, you start back to a stage 1 market, and then you just continue this over and over again, right? And then, as an example, it's like, well, if you've kind of figured out that most niches or industries, most mechanisms have been saturated in a given market, and change your market. Instead of advertising in the US, go in Italy, or go in Latin American market, or go in Australia, or go elsewhere where you might actually end up having easier time to create an offer. But what happened is that here, a lot of people got commoditized very fast, because the truth is, when you introduce, say, Facebook ads as a mechanism, you don't necessarily solve every problem of that business. And that's the same thing happening with AI automations. Whereas when you go here, you could consider a Facebook ad specialist as a hyper specialist. And I said it at the start of this video. Those are the people getting hyper commoditized really fast with AI. Because what happened now is that anybody who is focusing only on Facebook ads and media buying, AI took over. And so what happened is that media buying, because it was so hyper kind of specialization of a certain industry, the big giants, the platforms like Meta, multi-billion-dollar company, just automated media buying for the most part. And so now you have to solve more of that problem in order to help your clientele, which meant that you had to dive into appointment setting, into helping them out with sales, with landing pages, with offers, with anything that your clientele, say blue collar businesses, actually needed to not only generate leads, but convert them effectively and get more money out of every lead that they got through their pipeline. So it meant that you had to pivot from a skill to an infrastructure. And the same thing is happening with AI. Because what happens now, and I'm still incredibly bullish on AI as a category, because for the same reason as mentioned earlier, where what Facebook ads was to 2017, AI is now to 2023 onwards, I'd like to say. And so we're still very early in the overall AI trend, where AI being a new category meant that no one in the US was offering AI services, and therefore no one was targeting any industry, and therefore no one was offering any mechanisms to this industry, and so on and so forth. But here, what I want to talk about in this video is really the difference between positioning yourself as an AI infrastructure builder rather than an AI kind of automation specialist. And I'll give examples of 2 friends of mine right here that I've helped, one of which was actually a client, the other just purely a friend. This is one of my good friends, Michael, right here, who's actually been offering YouTube ads for real estate agents now for a couple of years at this point. And his offers started to kind of die out, if you want, over the last few months. And we had a chat at the start of the summer. He was like, dude, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to change. Like, my ads are not working as well. And like, I'm just trying to, make this more profitable. And I was like, yo, right now, this is what's happening in the market. I'm like, you are here in social media advertising in the US to real estate agents. Your mechanism is YouTube ads. If you want to reset the game, just pivot to AI, change category. Same market, same industry, but no one has yet offered an AI solution to that market. And so now what he's done is he's essentially ended up launching AI YouTube ads funnel, if you want. And so already there, his cost per lead went down, his results skyrocketed, and he's also doing like a challenge right here where he's showing like ways that agents can replace themselves with AI and therefore increase their amount of leads and booked appointments and do so with less time and so on and so forth. And so that helped him print money once again and relit a fire under his business. And same thing here with, some of you might know him, Serge Guattari, which Serge was a client of ours for some time at the agency. And look, he started pivoting to AI as of last summer. And that was like about a year ago at this point. And even last summer right here, this was us running ads for him at that time. And we were spending, say, give or take $40,000 in a week to push for like a webinar. And he would collect like $375,000 off of the back of one of those webinars. It was insane. He was doing like 10x ROAS, and he's still doing that today because this is a whole new category in his market, right? His market was, say, US, Canada, say Australia. He's working with like online agencies for that matter, or let's just say agencies for the most part. And, his mechanism is he's basically like helping them pivot to this category. So he's like playing a level up. It's like himself is playing the AI category as a whole and helping anybody in his, industry pivoting to this category too, if that makes sense, right? So again, kind of selling the shovel, if you want, in other words. And so what I'm saying right here is if you're just doing AI automations like end-to-end workflows or any of that sort, you're already getting commoditized fast by giants like OpenAI, because what's happening is the same reason why these guys are just taking control over generalists like Assistable, they're also taking control over specialists, because now you can pretty much use, like if you're anything just remotely tech savvy, you can use Claude to help you come up with a JSON file that helps you essentially translate that into an end-to-end workflow. And then there you go. Workflows are pretty much already done for you. And a lot of these automations platform are also integrating AI into the platform so that you just have to describe the outcome that you want and it builds a workflow for you. So workflows are already starting to get like really commoditized, and so are automations. And so that's why I'm like, you got to pivot to infrastructures. And the best way to think of an infrastructure is the way in which I'm showing you in this video, is that AI is a category. You end up picking a market, you end up picking an industry, which a lot of people talk about as a niche in the space. You end up offering them, say, one mechanism to get them a desired outcome, which the desired outcome usually fixes demand or supply, and take control over this entire side of the business. This is the outcome I want you to get from this video, is whatever industry and mechanism that you end up deciding to get results for this business, it has to solve every problem that is either within the supply or demand curve of this business. So if you're working with blue collar businesses, what is every problem that this business might face in the supply category? Well, number one, they have to generate enough attention in leads. Say I want to do this with SEO as a way to do it. So AI SEO is an example. Great. Then I specialize in AI SEO to generate more demand, to generate more leads. But then that's not it for demand. That's not the end of my demand process. Now I have to convert those leads into appointments. I have to work the appointments into an actual closed deal. Then I have to perhaps engage past leads into, new, fresh opportunities, if you want, with my new offer. And so, in other words, what I'm saying is like, there's a lot more than just simple workflows you have to do right here. Like, are workflows part of what you deliver to this business? Yeah, because you might be able to create a workflow that helps them re-engage past leads. You might be able to create an AI agent that helps them engage and do appointment setting via text with their current leads. But it's like, there's a lot, you're stacking an infrastructure, essentially. You're stacking automations and workflows to build an infrastructure that solves every problem in, say, the demand curve of that business. Supply curve would be, again, helping them just from the moment that they onboard customers to billing customers to renewals to ascensions to cross sells to milestones per projects to even, hiring team members. And like, basically what I'm saying is AI is definitely a great opportunity. That's why every guru you see in this space is bullish on AI, because it's a new category. And new categories, we've seen it with Facebook ads a few years ago, opens up a gold rush for anybody in that space, because no one has offered any services under that category to any market or any industry. So that's why it's a gold rush. So now that you understand the why, then the second why you have to understand is, why am I saying that automations are pretty much becoming worthless? Is because, well, it's the incentive of big platforms to basically just end up like siphoning all of the generalists and hyper specialists in the space to make their platform more easy to use and lower the barrier to entry, if you want. So what's happening is skills like media buying are becoming so beginner level that, and they always were somewhat beginner level skills, but now the platforms are just taking control over that. And same thing when it comes to workflows. Platforms are taking control over that. Automation, same thing. So what I'm saying is, you have to move upstream in that market and focus on a full-on infrastructure for that market. And the overall conclusion I'm making from this is, the people surviving are the industry and market specific businesses building AI infrastructure. So like what I'm saying here, in other words, is if you're the one going to, like, if you're the first person to create a full-on demand generation AI infrastructure for blue collar businesses in the US, you win. Because this is not of OpenAI's interest to go that much into the market, right? But it's also not too narrow for you to get commoditized. And so if you're like, I'm going to be the first person to create a infrastructure and a series of processes, say with AI SEO and AI ads and perhaps AI appointment setting and AI sales assistants and AI workflows that re-engage those leads and work the leads and so on and so forth. So basically a full-on AI infrastructure for blue collar businesses in the US, now you're valuable. Now you're valuable to the marketplace, right? So that's the overall outcome I want you to get from this video, is focus on one market, one industry, and build a full-on infrastructure for this market under the AI category. And that's how you'll win, much more than if you're playing in the bottom of that market and just work on automations and workflows, which are easily getting commoditized. So if you made it through this video and you want to learn exactly how we've used AI to pretty much automate the demand generation process of online service-based businesses, agencies, and coaching businesses, then check out the link in the description down below to join my ad engine inner circle today. And on that note, I do invite you to check out other videos on the channel for some more useful marketing tips, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.